The 2024 election reshaped Washington in ways few expected. As Donald Trump returned to the White House, many observers wondered whether federal cannabis policy might finally move. But what followed next was not clarity. It was fragmentation, conflicting voices inside the administration, a Congress without consensus, and states veering in opposite directions, created a national landscape defined less by direction and more by chaos. Today on the podcast, we explore the early actions on cannabis taken by and during the Trump administration. Second term. Even before Inauguration Day, Trump's cabinet announcements gave early signals that cannabis policy was about to become a tug of war. One of the most surprising figures was Representative Matt Gaetz. Gaetz had a record that broke sharply from Republicans on the issue of cannabis. He openly supported legalization and even posted delist cannabis on social media. But his attorney general nomination crumbled under the weight of many scandals. Later, Gaetz resurfaced again with a photo taken of his laptop on a commercial flight that showed him preparing lobbying material for Trulieve, which is one of the nation's largest cannabis companies. While Gaetz fell out of contention for Attorney General, others with strong anti-cannabis views became more apparent. Trump appointed Derek Maltz as the DEA administrator. Maltz had built a public identity centered on strict anti-drug enforcement and routinely blasted state-level reforms online, and he called Oregon's drug decriminalization efforts a total failure and repeatedly linked cannabis to school shootings, emergency room visits, and social decline. Maltz was later replaced by Terrence Cole, who showed little willingness to discuss rescheduling when questioned by Senators Cory Booker and Alex Padilla. At the Department of Health and Human Services, yet another twist. Trump selected Robert F. Kennedy Jr., who, before joining the administration, had voiced support for not only cannabis legalization, but also for psychedelic reform.
What currently illegal drugs would you legalize?
I would decriminalize marijuana on a federal basis and allow the states to regulate it. And I would have a federal tax on it, though, and I would apply that tax to building rehabilitation centers around the country and providing people drug rehabilitation.
What about psychedelics, which have been decriminalized at the state level in Oregon and Colorado?
I would definitely decriminalize psychedelics.
Yet, inside the government, Kennedy has operated under a different tone. During his confirmation hearing, he stated that he would defer to the DEA and DOJ when pressed on scheduling. And in later interviews, Kennedy expressed concerns about high-potency cannabis products.
I'm worried about it. And, I've been in recovery for 42 years. I go to 12-step meetings every day. And so I hear stories all the time of people, of the impacts of marijuana on people and really catastrophic impacts on them. That worry also has to be balanced about, the impacts that we had before. The 25 states now have legalized marijuana, but we had about a third of our prison population that was in jail because of marijuana offenses. That's something we don't want either. We have, because of the legalization of recreational marijuana in 25 states, we have now a capacity to really study it and to compare it to states.
Studies look bad.
Right, and we need to do studies. We need to figure out.
Then there's Russell Vought, returning to the Office of Management and Budget. He took one of the hardest lines in the administration, calling cannabis a gateway drug on C-SPAN and arguing that protections for medical cannabis should be rolled back.
We have a culture of complacency in this country as to whether it's good to be using drugs. I would say I'm curious, and I can't ask the question, but I'm curious whether you support marijuana usage, the legality of it. Such it's clearly a gateway drug to other more serious drugs. You can't go to a big city without being engulfed with the smell of it, and yet it is a serious problem. And
Sarah Carter, named director of the Office of National Drug Control Policy, came from Fox News, where she focused on immigration and border security. Sabat, of SAM, Smart Approaches to Marijuana, had issued praise for her appointment, hoping she would emphasize prevention and youth harm. During her hearings, she would describe cannabis as relatively bipartisan, but refused to give any specifics on her positioning around rescheduling. And in her written up follow-ups, her positions were very vague, stating that she would comply with federal law and review evidence. Split appointments, mixed messages, and a cabinet that pulled in different directions with not much attention to cannabis. While the administration projected uncertainty, outside groups tried to shape the moment. In July 2025, Smart Approaches to Marijuana, or SAM, launched a wave of anti-cannabis advertising on social media and Fox News. One ad framed cannabis as part of a destabilization plot by foreign cartels.
America faces a choice, and China is watching. Chinese drug cartels are already embedded in America's marijuana trade, profiting while our biggest adversary destabilizes our communities. If activists get their way and reschedule marijuana, it hands China an advantage and harms American public health. Rescheduling marijuana would actually give cartels a tax break. President Trump, don't reschedule marijuana. It's not just domestic policy, it's national security.
Another claimed that legalization undermined Trump's Maha vision for a strong America, warning of psychosis, IQ loss, and threats to youth well-being.
Washington says it's working to make America healthy again, but while they debate red dye and food additives, they're on the verge of normalizing something even worse. High-potency marijuana is triggering addiction, psychosis, and impaired driving, especially in young people. Today's so-called legal marijuana is full of adulterants, pesticides, and GMO ingredients. That's not how we turn around the health epidemic in our country. Make America healthy again by facing the facts on weed. Don't reschedule marijuana.
And another urged viewers to oppose rescheduling outright using AI.
So what do you babies think about rescheduling marijuana?
Move weed to Schedule 3 and big marijuana gets a bedtime story full of tax breaks. No thanks. Teen addiction goes up 25% where it's legal. My brain's still under construction. Don't need any high maintenance. Keep it Schedule 1, please. I just learned to walk and science says weed means more heart attacks and strokes. I'll pass. I've got enough drama with teething.
At the White House, Trump echoed themes of collapse and disorder. In March 2025, the administration released a policy sheet entitled President Donald J. Trump Works to Make Our Nation's Capital Safe and Beautiful. Among the city's failed policies, the document listed one unexpected item: the decriminalization of cannabis. And in the first budget proposal, the big beautiful bill, the Trump administration attempted to strip long-standing protections for state medical programs, similar to actions done in the first administration. And although Congress later removed this language, the administration had made its position clear. Yet the signals kept shifting. Trump publicly supported Florida State Senator Joe Gruters for RNC chair, even though Gruters favored legalization. In response, Governor Ron DeSantis accused Gruters of siding with mega weed companies and betraying voters. Confusion has become the hallmark of this administration around cannabis. By 2025, many Americans expected to see progress, even on cannabis rescheduling. The Biden administration had begun this process, but inside the Trump administration, the issue had barely moved. In April, a White House official said no action is being considered at this time. In June, athletes like Mike Tyson and Kevin Durant appeared on Fox and Friends urging the administration to move forward.
What is the problem right now? Because it seems it's on its road to being legally nationwide. What are the hurdles you're dealing with right now?
Scheduling from 1 to 3, you have to believe cannabis is in the same category as heroin. How do you categorize it with heroin? Anybody that ever smoked cannabis know there's no comparison. And that's just ridiculous. So we're working on making a Schedule 3 and open up safe banking, because there's over 500,000 people that can't get loans because they're in the cannabis business alone. And that's just so ridiculous. It's such a great income of insurance for the country, and for the country, and I just can't see it. It's just ridiculous.
In July, the DEA confirmed that no steps had been taken. And in August, at a high-dollar fundraiser, Trump had vaguely suggested he might consider reclassification, but still, as of December 2025, no action has been taken. Even those close to Trump's first administration saw little reason for optimism. Sean Spicer declared bluntly that legalization would not happen under Trump. Former HED Secretary Ben Carson went further, publishing an opinion piece linking cannabis to crime and citing research that even the author's caution should not be interpreted as causal. The issue remains unmoved.
So it doesn't take a great deal of intellect to recognize that when you put these substances into communities and you make them easy to obtain, you get a much worse result. Also, people say, well, when I was young, I smoked marijuana. It didn't cause me to have a lot of problems. Recognize that the marijuana of the 60s and 70s was much less potent than the...
Oh, hello there. I didn't see you. I was just teaching Mr. Cookie how to fly. If you're enjoying the Dazed and Confused podcast, you can keep it going for just $4.20 a month on Patreon. It keeps the research flying, and it helps me afford his millet. On Capitol Hill, the landscape wasn't much better. Republicans and Democrats have introduced multiple bills, yet none have advanced meaningfully. There was the Prepare Act, which was a planning for regulatory change, but nothing has come out of that. In September, House appropriators took a step of voting to prevent the Department of Justice from spending money to reschedule cannabis at all. So of all the things to make sure that the executive can't do, the Congress is trying to make it where the executive can't do anything on cannabis rescheduling. As of now, federal reform appears to be going nowhere. The vacuum at the federal level magnified the importance of state policy. What emerged was a patchwork that diverged sharply across the country. In Florida, a new set of ballot initiative meant to satisfy DeSantis' concerns, such as banning public smoking and banning marketing towards children, has been proposed. Recently, courts decided a case ruling that cannabis odor could no longer be constituted as probable cause for a vehicle search. In Ohio, there was an internal struggle among the Republicans. Lawmakers had repeatedly tried to revise the voter-approved legalization law, but that looked quite differently depending on the camp, so it hit a gridlock. At the same time, Ohio's governor did put a ban on intoxicating hemp products, which was blocked by the courts on the same day. However, there were some new regulations that would eventually pass, adding taxes and potency caps. Texas has underwent some very confusing. Recently, legislators introduced many bills, some aimed at expanding the medical program, others sought to ban all products, including hemp-derived products. And cities also went their own way. Some cities passed reform that would eventually be overturned by state officials that meant to decriminalize cannabis. One of these activist movements, Ground Game Texas found that cities that maintain decriminalization experience a significant drop in arrests and major savings in enforcement costs. Idaho advanced some of the strictest legislation in the country, including mandatory minimum fines for possession for even small quantities. Policymakers also placed a measure on the 2026 ballot that would give voters the option to give up their ability to vote on the legislation around controlled substances, such as the legalization of cannabis. Meanwhile, other states have gone their own way. Illinois has reported record revenue from legalization. Maryland has recently raised taxes on commercial products. Delaware has opened its first adult use sales. Minnesota has launched retail sales on non-tribal land. Though in Virginia, there remains a bit of a gridlock between the legislature and the governor. Governor keeps vetoing the commercial use bill, so it's legal, but you can't buy it legally. The national map is not trending uniformly towards legalization. It is a fractured landscape still. Legal challenges intensified. One of the most closely watched cases is United States v. Hermani, scheduled for the Supreme Court review in early 2026. This case pertains to whether the federal prohibition on firearm possession by cannabis users is constitutional. And this mirrors a charge filed against Hunter Biden, which President Biden later pardoned. International pressures has added another layer. The recent use of bombs by the U.S. has caused some concern. Colombian President Gustavo Petro urged Trump to reconsider prohibition entirely, suggesting legal trade in cannabis rather than renewed drug war in Latin America. State attorney generals in 39 jurisdictions pushed Congress to ban intoxicating hemp products, reflecting frustration with the regulatory gaps created by the 2018 Farm Bill. And during the 2025 shutdown, one of the most contentious fights centered on hemp products. This bill contains new language on the proposed THC limits, now 0.4 milligrams of THC, which are so strict they would effectively ban much of the current market. And when put to a vote, senators overwhelmingly supported these restrictions. Even federal prosecutors are taking cues. In November 2025, the U.S. Attorney for Wyoming announced plans to increase enforcement on federal lands, signaling another turn towards stricter oversight. Despite the political turbulence, research continued. Well, some of it. And the trends told a story that contrasted sharply with some public rhetoric. National arrest rates for cannabis possession had fallen sharply since 2012. Surveys showed consistent growth in public support for legalization, and major surveys continued tracking adolescent cannabis use, offering a clearer but still nuanced picture of youth behavior during legalization. In 2012, the NSDUH reported that 14% of adolescents aged 12 to 17 had used cannabis in the previous year. By 2023, 11% had reported that. In 2012, Monitoring the Future reported that 36% of 12th grade students had used cannabis in the previous year. By 2023, that figure had dropped to 29%. Monitoring the Future also tracked two key influential factors: perceived risks and availability. In 2012, 73% of 12th grade students reported that regular cannabis use was a great risk. By 2023, only 46% affirmed this position. As for availability, in 2012, 82% of 12th grade students said that cannabis use was either fairly or very easy to obtain. By 2023, 73% had selected this response. In 2013, the YRBS reported that 49% of high school students had used cannabis in their lifetime, whereas 28% reported using it in the previous 30 days. By 2023, 40% of students had reported using cannabis in their lifetime, with 25% reporting it in the previous 30 days. The politics were noisy, but the data was clear. The period following the 2024 election did not bring the clarity many expected. Instead, the United States entered a new phase of cannabis policy making, defined by contradiction. A White House with mixed messages, a Congress unable to advance reform, and states charting different and diverging courses, and a public that largely supports legalization, even as the federal government still stands in opposition. Thank you so much. This has been episode 11. Have a great day.
What the fuck is this thing?
Cross joint.
Yeah.
Never smoked one of those?
You can smoke this?
Hell yeah, man.
No.
This is the future. This is like the apex of the vortex of joint engineering. This is it, man. This is what your grandchildren are gonna be smoking. Future. The future.
That's amazing. Well,